You're watching KUAM News Extra with Sonya Artero.
Welcome back. It is often said on Guam that while America had the Beatles, Guam had the Casuals. And while the Beatles had Paul McCartney, the Casuals had Patrick Palomo. For this segment of the show, we'll discuss how being a success with the Casuals helped shape Patrick Palomo into the accomplished entertainer that he is today. Now, tell us about your experience with the Casuals and what you remember most and what you enjoyed most about that time in your life.
My experience with the Casuals was just being in a band, you know, trying to learn as many tunes as possible and sound as great as possible so we can get gigs, and the traveling and meeting people and just, you know, absorbing everything that, you know, I saw while we were and heard while we were traveling. I think that was the best thing I enjoyed the most about being with the Casuals.
Now, do you think of yourself as a Paul McCartney of Guam?
No, hardly, but you know, if people say that, I think I can understand that because I've been playing for a long time and I have been writing songs. I don't dwell too much on my stuff, but when I see that it touches people, then it feels good to know that at least, you know, it's making someone feel good, because that's the whole reason why I'm writing, is to share something about peace and healing and all that.
Yeah. Now, why do you think the Casuals shared such great success on the island?
I think a lot of it had to do with the personalities in the band too. There were some very special people like Jesse Baez, for instance, and just we worked so hard. We had a chemistry, and that worked for us, and we were able to learn a lot of tunes. And when we went to Hawaii, we knew more tunes than the other bands, because that's how hard we worked, and so we were able to get gigs and start off successfully.
But sadly, it all came to an end in the 80s. What was it like after the band disbanded, if you will?
Gosh, I was so torn. I had a friend who was talking to me from the States, and he wanted me to move to LA. He's presently playing with Hiroshima now. His name is Kimo Cornwell. And he's saying, man, there'll be so many gigs for you out here because of your talent. But I heard Jesse's Guam on My Mind album, because he had left the Casuals maybe a year or a couple of years before the Casuals broke up. And he came up with this record, and in that album, there was a couple of tunes that I collaborated with Jesse. And I wasn't around when he went to record it. He went and recorded with Tommy Beato, a very close friend of mine too, and a great artist. When I heard that album, that made up my mind for me. I mean, I had to make decisions, but it was easy. I just heard that song, Guam on My Mind. I had to come back home.
Now, while growing up on Guam in the 60s and the 70s, there's a lot of bands out there. Tell us who inspired you the most and why?
Perhaps maybe some of the bands that my dad played jazz with. I can't remember the names because a lot of times he'd get together with the other local jazz musicians and do gigs. And also a group called the Downbeats that my brother Joe was playing with. And they had some very fine musicians in that band too, and I really admired their material because it was really jazzy. They were playing a lot of, you know, jazz standard stuff from like Tijuana Brass and things like that. And it just fascinated me and made me want to really pursue getting into music.
A lot of people describe your music as being complex, but your personality, if you will, is quite the opposite. So ironically, you give of yourself so much to the community by way of charities and whatnot. Tell us why you do things like that.
I think a lot of that comes from my upbringing. I was raised in a home where my parents, well, even the music, because my parents both played. You know, my mom played piano and stuff, but they also taught us how to always be giving of yourself, you know, and learning to work with people. And then the one valuable lesson I learned growing up from my parents, and also my Auntie Kit, who raised me, she was like our nanny, was that when you grow up and you start, you know, learning about life and experiencing stuff in your life, the most successful thing you can have and the richest thing you can have in your life is not money, but it's in real friends. And that's where you know, that I always grew up learning that the real wealth lies in having these friendships. And that's why, you know, it's always so important for me to learn to work with anyone. And I've also been able to see good in people where some people say, wow, this person, you can't work with that person. They, you know, but I feel like you can always find something good in everybody.
How beautiful. Thanks again for sharing that with us. Stay tuned to KUAM News Extra as we will wrap up our interview with Patrick Palomo.